Welcome to Straight Lines. I'm Tim Neiman. This is where life lessons meet leadership, where business gets a dugout seat, and where baseball gives us more than box scores. It gives us blueprints. Whether you're managing a team, building a brand, or just trying to lead yourself better, you're in the right place. Because here on Straight Lines, we believe the shortest distance between purpose and progress is truth, clarity, and action. Pleased to be joined today by Rob Sitz he's a president of DS Sports, located in Florida. Main office, where you guys are kind of mobile, but main office.
Main office in our Orlando
Yeah.
area. Yep.
Yeah. Well, thank you for bringing home, Rob. I really appreciate it. We'll have a good
Absolutely.
time. So appreciate you being on. I always like to start, with a little bit of background and let people know who you are. Kind of the journey you've been on. So kind of walk us through that, where everything began for you and how it eventually, I know you pitched at Rollins, coached there too a little bit. Is that right?
Yep, exactly. Yeah. So as most people just fell in love with the game of baseball at a young age, and probably kind of remember really falling in love with it like 11, 12, 13, that age time frame there, and playing little league. I played at a popular little league, West Seminole Pony League, and ended up going to Lake Brantley High School, and we had some success, some good success there. Had some great teams. Won a state championship my junior year. And then ended up going to Rollins College and pitched there for 4 years, and then I became the pitching coach at Rollins for 4 years after that, as well as I was getting my master's actually from UCF. So I got my master's in sport business management. So I got an MBA and a sports management degree from the UCF DeVos sports management program there. Rich Labchek was the guy that brought it there. What a great, it was a great program. And so did that, and then got involved with the Florida Collegiate Summer League right after that. I actually coached in the league the first year of it in 2004. And then after I got done coaching that summer, Mike and Sarah Whiting, who started the league, were like, would you be interested in helping us, kind of organize this, get it going, kind of grow it, all of that. So as I was coaching at Rollins, I was doing that. And as any young coach, doing a ton of private lessons and everything, just staying involved in the sport. But coaching is truly is my first passion, is my love. I mean, I loved coaching. I loved coaching. When I got out at Rollins, I knew that would never really be that moment where you got, 30, 35, 40, whatever it is, guys all, pulling from the same string with the same goal. And, I just really enjoyed that part of it. But I also really enjoy the management of what I've been doing with the Florida League and now with DS and all of that as well. So that kind of the background there.
Yeah, that's pretty good. You're really good at managing, by the way. You do a heck of a job down there. And we'll get into some of the stuff too, though. You have a bunch of different brands, underneath you. So you're still the commissioner, right, of the Florida.
I am. Yes. So I've been involved with that league since 2004 as a coach. And then I think I was general manager at some point. I was vice president. I was president for a period of time. And then when I started the DS Sports Ventures stuff there, I stepped back, and Stefano Foggi, who was the vice president at the time, is now the president. And I took on that commissioner role and really just kind of helping him help continue to guide the league and all of that. We actually have our celebrity golf tournament, our big off-season fundraiser, coming up on Monday. So bringing a lot of celebrity players. We're fortunate in the Central Florida area to have a ton of those guys, and then put together a nice little fundraiser with all the baseball guys here in Central Florida. So
yeah, that's cool. Yeah, and they're around right now too for a while. So season's over, and a bunch of people around. Are you still coaching a little or no? You do anything?
My son's team. So I've got a 12-year-old son. So we're actually starting our little league playoffs at Lake Mary Little League that won the Little League World Series 2 summers ago. Not this past summer. They had. So I've been coaching his team, and that's great. Great. I greatly enjoy that. But I don't know how much longer we're going to be going. He's jumping to the big field. He's at Lake Mary Prep basically playing high school baseball as a seventh grader as well. So I don't know how many more years I'll be coaching his teams or not. So we'll see. But I'm enjoying every second of it. That's for sure.
I'm glad you are. You got to try to find time for that if you can. I think. That's so important. Let's talk about DS Sports. How did that, the vision come about? How old is the company? Just, that took on that.
So DS Sports, really started with RussMatt. So that started in 2017 was when we acquired that. So really what happened was my business partner, and then he had a partner on the tech side of things, they were building Baseball Cloud, what they eventually acquired, Jacker Tech, capturing all the data on the fields and everything. And they, were focused on that tech side. So they already kind of had that set up. And then they were like, hey, we'd love to have an event side of the business and want you to lead that up. And I was like, all right, well, first thing, when I was running the Florida League, I was trying to get into that college spring, bringing teams down, all of that, because we had a lot of the fields. And I just said the first thing I would do is go after RussMatt because it's an incredible event. And I knew Dave Bernard, who was running it. And it just worked out. Timing in life is everything, right? It was the right time for him. He was having some health issues and pretty much a one-man show running that company. And it's certainly a lot to run. So anyways, had some very good conversations with him and we were able to acquire that. And then after that, we acquired Greater Orlando Baseball, which is a big youth tournament business from 8U to 18U here in Central Florida. So we pretty much stay just in this one market. And then the next one we acquired was Prospect Wire, which Prospect Wire brings its own other levels because we travel everywhere across the country running events, which is much more difficult than being able to run at the same facilities all the time, or even like the RussMatt stuff where you're running for almost 2 months period and get everything set up. You're doing that on a weekly basis. So there's a lot of time and energy and effort that goes into that. But Prospect Wire is a tremendous company. And then later, 2 years ago around this time, we acquired Snowbird and Port Charlotte, which is another college spring event where colleges go down there. Palm Beach Challenge down in Palm Beach, Florida. And then USA Premier that runs about 8 to 10 events in Irvine, California, very similar to Prospect Wire. A lot of the Prospect Wire, we bring all the scouts and the stats and all of that stuff that makes Prospect Wire unique to USA Premier now and have a lot of events in that great park of Irvine, which is a beautiful facility out there. So those are our 6 companies as we sit right now that I kind of oversee and, very fortunate to have a lot of really good people that run the show for those companies.
Yeah, you need, as as a coach, you need to surround yourself with good people. I made a career on that where, I just want guys smarter than I am, make me look good, get me to the games. I want to know what you know, but you can't be successful, without them. That's a lot of great brands. Amazing brands. And again, you do a sensational job. So you've been a coach, you've been involved in lots of different entities, sports wise, management, anything stick out lessons wise, like leadership wise that you would hang your hat on?
I think character is probably the number one thing. Trust, people have to, especially in this industry, unfortunately, there's, I think we work in an industry that trust isn't always, it's definitely an earned thing, right? It's like there's too many times people have done wrong in this industry. So trust, treating people the right way, right? The golden rule: treat others the way you want to be treated, and really those are the main things from that aspect of it. I think from the event aspect of it is just trying to we're always striving for that perfect event, and it's pretty much impossible to do, but always striving to provide as much value to the customers as we possibly can. And provide great experience for everybody, from the coaches, players, parents, everybody who's involved. And as long as you're focused on those things, I think a lot of good things will happen along the way.
And you and I both know we're never going to please everybody, but
That's correct.
you just, somebody's always going to have something to say, and whatever, you move on and, work on it. So, I mean,
I always say, Tim, and you were part of one of those coaches when I first took over RussMatt, but I said I got into the position to the impossible position to try to keep 250 college coaches happy. Right. It's like, that's when we're doing the scheduling, which is what we're doing right now, scheduling just right around 1,000 college baseball games and trying to get everybody the schedule that they're looking for. I will say, I think we do a tremendous job of doing that. And hopefully most coaches, believe that. We take that very seriously. But as you know, from coaching in D3 for a long time, I mean, some of these teams are down here playing 25% of their schedule with us. So, we take that very seriously. And a lot of these, a good majority of these coaches are going to be playing in regionals, and their strength of schedule is very important in order to get in there. So I'm in that process right now where we just got the schedule request back and kind of diving into that. And there's a lot of long hours and that go into it, but I do my best to try to provide every coach with what he's looking for the schedule. As you know, it can't be perfect, but we do our best to try to make as many as we can happy with
we did a wonderful job when we were there. I think we were there 3 years, and you always met our needs. I thank you and appreciate all that. I don't think, at the time you realize it, but, with age comes wisdom and hindsight.
Yeah.
And, it was a pretty good experience. And all those moving parts that you had, that's a tough challenge, man. That's a tough apple to peel, and to make sure everybody's happy. And they wouldn't be coming back to you if you did a lousy job.
No, for sure. That's one thing I'm so proud of, is that we probably have 95% of them coming back every year. And usually when they're not coming back, they're, hey, I'm going to California or Arizona or Texas for a year to just give a little bit of different experience. But then he's like, I'm coming right back. Don't forget about me. Make sure so we are very proud of that. That is extremely important. But when you talk about taking over something, that was a huge, Dave Bernard, a super smart guy, pretty much a genius, but he was very involved with D3 baseball, knew, and just basically could do the schedule by hand with pencil and eraser and all of that, because he started it. There was, I think the first year there was only 2 teams, and then it went to 4 and then 16 and, up to 50, you kind of start, all the teams that are coming, what they're looking for. So he did a lot of it by just his knowledge. And then we had to bring in that system. And I worked with Corey Whiting, who was our CTO. And he developed an algorithm that we take, we got a rating on every single game based on what they're asking. And I think I think we do a very good job of that. And it's, I obviously take it very seriously, because it's such a important reason why they come down. So
without a doubt, Rob, again, if there's not a good product or service, they ain't coming back. Just
that's true.
People move on. Same with me trying to do this. I think it's been pretty good, and I've had some great guests already. If it sucked, nobody would come on, and I wouldn't blame them. I wouldn't blame them
right.
one bit. So you got a lot of moving parts besides the scheduling, not just for RussMatt, for all the other things you do. How do you what other challenges are there in putting this together? I'm sure. So you only have players and the teams and the coaches who can be a real pain, but you also have got lots of parents, lots of family and friends visiting. So, besides the scheduling, how do you kind of cope with all that?
Yeah, I think event operations are always, it's a highly stressful position. scheduling not only RussMatt, but scheduling, the Prospect Wire tournaments of the Greater Orlando baseball tournament, all of that stuff that goes into, again, getting the coaches what they're looking for, trying to keep the parents happy as much as you can. You got umpires that go into that, which I've got a great story on you and an umpire later. But you got umpires are such an important aspect of the experience, right? For the players, for the coaches, the on-field side of things. So I think it's always, you almost have to have that personality where it's like, it's not going to be perfect. You strive for perfection, but and you got to be able to handle that, because a lot of people get in this event management space just get burned out, and it is a stressful position. But as long as you're doing everything and that you can to provide the best experience for for everybody involved with it, then I think you can, rest your head at night and be happy with what you're doing. So
absolutely. Yeah. That was not one of my finer moments,
That was the first year I took over RussMatt. That was the first time. It was so early.
I am a good guy.
You're a great guy, but it was so funny because I was like, man, this guy's like, I knew you were like one of the winningest managers in D3. I'm like, holy cow, what happened here? But the great thing that you did was you like owned up to it. You're like, listen, I kind of lost my mind out there.
It's heat of the moment, and unfortunately, a piece of baseball equipment got thrown across the field, and that's the way it goes. But the funny thing is, the same umpire was really good, and I don't think he was having a great day either. So you had two veteran vintage guys that were not having a good day, and had him the next year in one of the games. And he goes, Coach, I had to do what I had to do. I'm very sorry. I wasn't really familiar with who you were. And I said, well, that's okay. You do what you had to do. I earned it. I deserved it. I'm not going to put up anything else, but you weren't really good that day. So I have to tell you again. But he goes, no, I wasn't. So, it's kind of a funny thing. And that's the way it goes sometimes. That wasn't the only time I was asked to leave. That's for sure. That was the only time down there, I think. Might have another one. I don't know.
The only time that I remember down there. That's for here. That's for sure. But
that is what it is. Visiting with the outstanding Rob Sitz, president of DS Sports, having a great time with Rob. Since 1909, Baseball Blue Book has been the trusted directory for MLB scouts, and today it's grown into the most comprehensive platform in the game. But it's not just for players and coaches, it's for businesses too. Inside the Baseball Blue Book app, companies can create full profiles, promote their products or services, and even build private groups to connect directly with baseball players, parents, and coaches. Whether offering training, equipment, nutrition, or any service that touches the game, you now have a direct pipeline to the baseball community. If your business wants to stand out, it's time to get in the book. Download Baseball Blue Book today from Apple or Google Play. Again, visiting here with Rob Sitz, president of DS Sports, very multifaceted, diverse company in the baseball world, college baseball, youth baseball, all those other things. And I will attest that they do a tremendous job organizing what seems to be insurmountable, factors from time to time. And they handle it very professionally with some class on top of it all. So you've got all these brands, these companies. Is there an overall DS Sports core values, to those running your business, and, kind of expectations that you expect? Talk about surrounding yourself with really good people, and that's good. But, and I'm sure you're running, it's what the concept of straight lines, right? Trying to surround myself with good people that are on brand and all. And, if you get a flat tire, it's like, how fast can you change the tire and get it back on? Anything that it's a standard operating, culture. What is the culture for DS Sports?
I think what's so important is to know your customer, right, and to make sure that you're again, doing everything you can do to make their experience the best you can make it. Right. So, and that is different for RussMatt, that is different for Prospect Wire, is different for Greater Orlando baseball, because your customer's always kind of changing. Obviously, parents are a lot more involved on the youth level than, obviously the college level. And, the college coach, from the RussMatt side of things is definitely my core customer, right? He's the guy, as I always say, making that $30,000 to $50,000 decision to come down, come down here. So obviously our first thing we could do, is just to make sure that he, we make it as easy as possible, whether he's looking for van rentals, buses, the lodging part of it, transportation, side of things there, meals, whatever it may be that comes up, during this time that they're down here, that we have, are able to provide that. So I think just, again, knowing your customer first and then doing everything you can to, take care of that customer to keep them happy is probably our number one, guiding principle in what we do.
Yeah, and you do it well. Again, I'm just not saying that you wouldn't be on with me if I thought you sucked. So.
Well, I appreciate that, Tim. Thank you.
And you're great. You're really, really, really great. So I like to talk about relationships, and you and I have had a little bit of one, and it's amazing how everything in the baseball world and in life in general are connected through some kind of a network. And hey, I know this guy, he'd be good. I mean, it's crazy. And I think it's awesome as well. It's nice to go to a ABCA convention or somewhere, and you're going to see hundreds of guys, that you have some sort of relationship with. And I think that's fantastic. I mean, you built obviously a bunch of relationships with college coaches, and MLB scouts as well, right? You get them to come to, your events. So maybe talk about how important that network is for business operators out there, some young folks that are listening and want to try to carve out a career in sport management. Talk about that, the relationships and how important they are.
Absolutely. Relationships is extremely important. And that kind of goes back to what I said from the beginning there of character and trust, right? It's like you got to, in that golden rule of treat others the way you want to be treated. I mean, there's times where certainly get asked, to do things and you're busy as can be or whatever, but you want to do that because if I asked them, they would go out of their way to do that same for me as well. So I just, the relationships, what is pretty cool about our DS sports as a whole is obviously starting at the top there, having the largest college baseball event in the country in RussMatt, but also having Snowbird Palm Beach Challenge. I mean, we're dealing with well over 300 college coaches a year, and they're putting their trust in us to take care of them while they're coming down. Obviously, Prospect Wire players are putting their trust in us to participate in our events. And a lot of the reasons they participate in the events are they want to go on to play in college. So we have those relationships to just bring more, a better experience for a lot of these players. And that's extremely important to us. I mean, we try to, we make sure that we have college coaches at our Prospect Wire events. We're making sure that we have our scouts sending out those videos, evaluating the players, doing write-ups, trying to promote those players as much as we, possibly can. And obviously that helps a lot with the relationships that we have between the college coaches, the MLB scouts as well that come and, watch a lot of these guys that are participating in our events, as well.
Yeah. Again, I think those kinds of folks aren't going to come if they don't think there's value to it, and you provide tons of value for it. And that's why people trust you. Trust goes along with relationships as well. And
right.
You've cultivated and now steward, you're keeping those relationships and trust factors alive. So how, I guess kind of touched on a little bit, making sure everybody's happy. Is there a criteria? How do you evaluate the success of with all the moving parts you got? You put your head on the pillow at night, it's like, okay, this was pretty good. And I know, and anything, immediately you're into the, RussMatt 2027, right? I mean, all the other things. You're into the next thing. How do you evaluate it? Or is there a scenario where, we we got to reevaluate this and do something else.
Yeah, I mean, I think first and foremost is hearing from coaches, players, parents that, their experience, right? I mean, I always talk about that experience first and foremost before, and we're in this budgeting time and all of this and putting out numbers of how many teams we expect and all that kind of stuff. But I think that's a secondary thing. If you're providing the quality experience, then those numbers are gonna be there at the end of the day. I try not to focus on those numbers as the first and foremost, all that kind of stuff. And also, when it goes to, again, providing that experience, a lot of times our margins aren't as good because we put so much back into the event. We make sure that we have those scouts there, those college coaches there, the experience. We try to, again, do as much as we can to provide, a great experience to everybody who's coming. The first thing I did when I took over RussMatt was the first year we had custom fungos with the coach's name on it. You probably remember that. You probably yeah. It's so many of the coaches, and we started doing goodie bags with polo shirts and hats and all of those kind of things. But I mean, I always said, I said it, the coaches were like blown away. They're like, oh my God, Dave never did this for me, whatever. And the word try, I said, guys, this is the least I could do for you, So, I mean, this is, it's so important to show that to your customers. It's like, hey, we really appreciate you putting your trust in us. And this is one small way we can, give back to you on all of that. We do. You mentioned ABCA earlier as well. I mean, what a great time with all of those coaches. We throw a get together for all the from all of our brands, but a lot of the RussMatt College coaches are there, but Snowbird, Palm Beach Challenge coaches, the Prospect Wire travel organizations that are there. We throw a nice little get together, and that helps, like I was talking about earlier, all the Prospect Wire travel ball teams and all of that have that opportunity to talk to all these college coaches from around the country. There's not many places where we can facilitate that. And there's no other, I always say, like, there's no other place in the world besides Polk County with 1,000 college, games going on, 250 plus colleges going on in a, month period of time there. What I love to see is all the kids that are from this Central Florida market that are going to these Northeast, Midwest, schools that come down to RussMatt that were, those kids may have came up to RussMatt game, talked to a coach, as I tell Florida kids, for sure, if you really want to play, there's a place for you. If you're, a successful player in high school, there's a place for you, but you do have to think outside of the state of Florida. The state of Florida is very tough to play college baseball in. And there's only so many teams and so many players. And that's where the whole, as the 2% of players going on from high school or 4%, whatever it is there. I mean, but there's a lot of players, that have been fortunate to play in Florida, state of Florida, Central Florida, and the weather that they get, and they play so many games, and they do, have that skill set there where if they're really open, academics matter, as a lot of these D3 schools are very good academics. If you got the academics, you got the athletic ability, think outside of the state of Florida, and there's a lot of opportunities for you out there.
Yeah, I spoke to the kids at Manatee High School about all that stuff. I did some homework, wrote some numbers. Not a lot of inventory. And
there's not. Nolan and I were talking about that a little bit. So yeah, that's there's not, and nowadays with the transfer portal and all of that going on, I mean, there's even less for the actual high school kids. So,
but I do agree with you. I think there's definitely a school for anybody if you want to go through the process and look for something that's a good fit. Visiting with Rob Sitz from DS Sports, building his own legacy, if you will, and he's doing a tremendous job. When the game is over, what will people remember about you? My book, What is Your Legacy, challenges leaders, athletes, and everyday people to think beyond the scoreboard. It's about purpose, impact, and the mark you leave on others. If you're ready to define your legacy and live it with intention, this book will guide the way. Get your copy of What is Your Legacy today and start shaping the story only you can tell. available at coachneiman.com. Should be a new website coming up soon. And of course on Amazon. With Rob Sitz, I wanted to, we could spend a day on youth baseball. So I wanted to, wanted to explore that with you about, where it's at, what's the trends that might okay, this is a good trend. I like where this is going. And then we'll follow up with, all right, what's a concern here, which I'm sure we both have many. So sometimes, it's almost the NCAA right now, the wild, wild west on both ends at some point. But it seems like, organizations like yourself that can coordinate and present the truth, present, an operation, an event that's, basically, what I respect about you and everything you guys do, you do what you say you're going to do. And I think that's important. That's that trust, that's relationship. But your thoughts on youth and where we're at, that travel world especially.
So I'll start with the positives on that. I mean, I think there, I actually kind of love the data. I love I've been talking to an AI company about I love the non-bias feedback to the players, right? Is and that's what I look at data is, right? Data is, hey, I mean, nobody, you either hit it 90 miles an hour or throw it 90 miles an hour or you don't, the unbiased, hey, this, that's what the great thing about this game. And one of the greatest thing about baseball is, you don't have to be a 6'6", yeah, it's great to be Aaron Judge and be as big as he is, but Dustin Pedroia was an MVP as well. And, David Eckstein he lives right down here. He's had a great career. You don't have to be this, just physical specimen like in, NBA or NFL or any of that there. But I do like going probably to what I didn't like, I feel like there's just so much biased information being sent, everybody who gets this evaluation, when you pay $1,000, you're getting, this showcase valuation that says you're a D1 player and truthfully, you're probably not, those kind of things. So I like the direction that we're going and on that aspect of things. I think, honest feedback is extremely important to players. I would have loved, I look at some of this stuff and I look back at my playing days and what I would have, I would have eaten a lot of that stuff up and just, I think would have been a better player because of a lot of that information there. So I look at that as a positive thing. I look at all the video stuff that the profiles that you have and the stats that you have. I don't have any of that stuff from when I played. Even some of my college, I don't even know whether all of my college stats are still on the, internet and everything there. So, I think some of these profiles and stuff that whether you go on to be, Aaron Judge or not, still to be able to share that with your kids, is pretty cool. Hey, this is what I did in, high school. This is what my swing looked like when I was your age and stuff like that. I think all of that kind of stuff, I think is the technology side of things, I think is, very good. All the, you got to use it in the right way and think about it in the right way there. Some people, so I think it can be too much as well, but, so anyway, so that's kind of where I, on the positive side of things there.
Yeah, we'll go negative side here in a minute. So I was with a coach with Houston Astros in AAA just yesterday, and I'm vintage age, a little old schoolish in me, a little, obviously a lot probably. And we have the new school stuff with the metrics and the data, and that stuff is important. It's not going anywhere. And I've always felt, and I've talked about this for about 10 years, organizations that can blend, all the data, all the truthful numbers that come out, they ain't lying. They are what they are, and balance that with, a guy that has a little feel, still human beings, and talk about the feel. And, Dave Roberts decided to use 4 starting pitchers in game 7, right? The starter and 3 and the other 3 in relief. That's a feel for the game. The numbers wouldn't have told you to do that. So, right. The Dodgers blend, and they've got some players too, obviously. But those are the teams that really do well. And I kind of coined the phrase yesterday, and maybe it's out there. How about not old school? How about not new school? How about now school? That's what we got. It's now. This is the kinds of things we have now. So it's now school. He goes, "Hey, I'll take that back to Houston with, yeah, like whatever, but now
Yeah.
school." And you know what? Next year or 3 years or 5 years, that's going to be a little different too, but it's still going to be what we've got now. And I
Right.
think that's
For
important.
sure.
Let's wrap up, kind of this last bit, the downside of youth sports, and what are you seeing that is a concern to you?
Probably my biggest pet peeve, and I think travel ball as a whole is a great thing, right? I mean, you got youth league baseball, little league Babe Ruth, whatever league you're talking about there. You got it. It's so important to get kids introduced to the game. And then there's the kids that excel a little bit, that are a little bit better. And it's like, okay, hey, maybe we should look at travel ball. And I think travel ball, from that aspect of bringing, kids from this city, county, whatever together, is a great thing, because practices can be a little bit better with the equal, talent level versus some of the stuff you get in youth leagues. But then when it goes beyond that, and all of a sudden you're putting together these all-star teams that are flying in, and you're paying for a 12-year-old kid to fly in and play in this event, I just think it's just sending the wrong message. I mean, we could go to the whole NIL and all of that stuff that's going on in college and everything. And listen, I want these kids to get rewarded for them, but I just think that we start introducing that. I've seen that trend all the way, it's starting even at 10 and 11 years old, when you start having these, super teams that, are funded by whatever, person out there that's, bringing in these kids from all over different areas. And obviously they're going and winning, they're having success, but it's like, is this the right, thing for youth sports baseball? And I always thought like travel ball was so great because, as a kid growing up, travel ball wasn't really around. And, hey, I was one of the better kids in my little league or whatever league I was playing in, but I didn't have that whole like world view that the kids have now. So I think that is pretty cool, right? I mean, like, hey, you might be the best kid in your city, county, and then you start competing at the state level, and then you start competing nationally level, and that's a pretty cool eye-opening experience for these players that maybe we didn't get, and certainly probably not, you didn't get when you were playing. Like you kind of played just in your, city and town and state there. So I do think that's a positive thing, but on the, that I just kind of hate those like super teams being put together and all of that kind of stuff. I like what travel ball was meant, try to get the best players from that area, make sure you're practicing a lot, because that's where those super teams, they don't practice. They just come together and, hey, it's nice to meet you. I'm batting third and, playing shortstop, they don't practice together. And I just love that. I just think that's so important. I think, unfortunately, we kind of miss that in some of these, better kids. And I think that's starting to show, is that it's more about the me versus the we, of the team, right? Is because we're kind of we're ingraining that it's all about you and how much you're doing to get selected to this team or whatever, at an early age, instead of that team atmosphere of what it should be all about. So
It breeds a little selfishness. There's no doubt about it. And I think that has trickled up, in the college or, transfer portal. It's easy for me to go to school and just talk to the high school last night about college recruiting and a process. And it's just easy to leave and go to the next school or whatever. And I talked about all the downsides of, academics and social and financial, all those other things. Why do you want to go through that every year? But my biggest worry and concern most of the time is just the misinformation and the delusion and the misrepresentation of some teams, some organizations of, hey, this kid's, 177 to second base. No, he's not. No, he's not. This kid's 92 to 94, and you go see him and he's 84 to 85. So I think the best thing, if folks listening, that they can do is just be honest and upfront and say, don't outkick the coverage with trying to recommend players and that sort of thing. And then dial it down a little bit with the younger kids. The good players and the talented players do want to play with other good, talented players. They want to be with them because they get, and they're not dumb. 11-year-old, 12-year-old, 13, 14, I mean, even up to 15, they want to be with the better kids. So take them and develop them and make them better. And then when you get to high school, it starts to make a little bit of difference. So just some concerns. I mean, that's a topic we could get about 100 guys on and kick that around.
We could go a long time on that. And one other thing I think, and I'm kind of experiencing this with my oldest son, is, that jump from 12U to 13U to that big field. And I was actually talking to a guy the other night about it as well. I actually went from coaching college baseball to coaching a 13U travel ball team. And I was like, wow, this is like watching paint dry. I mean, this is just slow. And by the way, we had a really good team. Francisco Lindor was our shortstop. So we had a really good team, and we were very talented, won a bunch of games, all that kind of stuff. But like, it was just like, holy cow, this is a huge jump for these kids. Like, it's, I mean, and I think we lose a lot of kids, unfortunately, because of that jump, and because the game slows down so much. It's not quite as exciting. It's not quite as fun. And us as coaches have got to, communicate that with the kids, because it is a tough time. I mean, also 13 years, 14 years old, they're going through a lot, and with their bodies and everything as well. And just to keep these kids, and that's the other thing too, is that there's kids that have already, hit their growth, final growth number, and there's kids that haven't at all, so to keep those kids encouraged and keep them in this great game of baseball, I think is just so important during that time, especially. And the more we can do to, help with that, I think that's great for, the overall game of baseball.
A little patience, a little perseverance, and the emphasis on fundamentals where, those skills are never going to leave you. They're not going to leave you. And the guy that's a little bit bigger, stronger, that's doing well now at 12, will probably fall on the wayside as he gets older, because, hey, why do I have to change? I'm doing well. And a little guy that's got everything right, and all of a sudden he goes right by. He scoots right by. He's doing everything well. And finally, he hit his growth spurt. So visiting again with Rob Sitz from DS Sports. Wrote a book called Team Killers. It's pretty good. I think folks would like it. In every workplace and every team, there are unforeseen forces that can derail success. In the book Team Killers, I uncover the behaviors, attitudes, and habits that destroy chemistry and show you how to build a winning culture instead. If you're a leader, coach, or teammate who wants lasting success, this book is your playbook. Get your copy of Team Killers today and protect your team from the inside out. CoachNeiman.com or Amazon. I was looking at some numbers, Rob, the economic impact that, oh my goodness, I was like, wow, this is just incredible. I mean, you impact so many families every year. Look at some of these numbers, 220, I'm not sure what year this was from, 225 million, all right, 300,000 attendees, 175,000 unique players, 10,000 teams, 200 plus teams. I mean, it's just amazing to me. I guess I would hope that the communities that you work in, that you're influxing all this economic dollars and everything else that come in, I would hope they'd appreciate it and recognize, the power of DS Sports and Rob Sitz and what you're doing. Is that a fact that hopefully I'm sure you need a lot of cooperation to go with it as well.
I think that's one part of this industry that has really grown over the past 15 years is the cities, counties, states have realized the economic impact of these events and the and one of the biggest things that happened is after COVID is the first thing to come back was youth sports travel. And that has been a huge thing. But as every family that is out there in the travel world, any sport, doesn't matter what it is, that a lot of your trips are based around your kids sports teams, right? It's like, I know I was to Branson, Missouri last year with my son. We're going to Omaha this summer. So we make a lot of those trips, and it's so important. And it's so memorable experience, right? I mean, that's, you already have hopefully a great group of friends that you're, a part of with the teams. And then you go on these trips to these great places. And that economic impact is so important for the facilities, the cities, counties, whoever owns and runs these facilities, right? I mean, that's the way, a lot of times they're not paying the bills by just the rent that we're, paying for these places and everything, but that economic impact really helps to support the, having those fields. And when it's done right with the tourist development councils and all of that, and the weekly use of those fields for the local community, the weekend use for the travel community, and the economic impact it does with the hotels and the restaurants and everything that, everybody's working together and we're building something special there. So we've been very fortunate to have great partners, with all of our events. And we're, one of the things that we're very loyal to in Prospect Wire, RussMatt, where we do events all over, once we establish an event, it is there. It's on that date. We're looking to stay there and just continue to grow it in that location there. So we have a lot of obviously repeat events, and that comes from a lot of support from the cities and counties that we work with.
Yeah, I would guess they would be more than willing to cooperate, right? I mean, those are, again, I looked at those numbers like, holy smokes. I mean, that is impressive numbers. So impressive. I'm going to read them one more time for the folks listening. $225 million, 300,000 attendees, 175,000 of those are unique players, 10,000 teams, and 200 plus teams attending and stuff. That's amazing. I just was blown away by those numbers. Congratulate you and all that help you out with that. And it's only going to get better. Where do you see the growth? Do you have some things cooking maybe on the horizon that you could share? Or, what's the vision? What's it look like 3 years from now, 5 years from now, even 10 years from now?
Yeah, I would say, we've acquired 6 companies over this time, and we've, added on a lot of things, events and all of that kind of stuff during that time. So, I get this question a lot. What is cooking? What's your next one you're adding or whatever? I will say we're always having conversations. There's a lot out there, but we obviously have a lot on our plate, and we have a lot of growth opportunities within what we're currently doing. In the companies that we're currently running. Sure. Prospect Wire can run tournaments wherever, all over the country. And we're constantly having those conversations with cities and counties about, putting on events. Prospect Wire has been focused from the 13U, all the big field stuff, 13U, 14U, and obviously the 16U, 18U high school level of stuff. I would love to see us go down to the younger ages in that, because I just think, the Prospect Wire brand and the Prospect Wire stat, and we just, run events, And
if you will, I think it might be an easier market to enter. I know trying to help get something going up here from high school end. And as you know, the Northeast is so saturated, and saturated with pollution on top of it. But not so much on the younger ones. And, with them, I think they, oh, wow, this is cool. Prospect Wire, East Coast Mid-Atlantic Championship. And I think there's quicker buy-in with less, maybe expectations. I don't know if that's the right word, but they're not quite open to all the, or not open, but exposed to all the, the bigger events that are out there. So just interjecting there, I think the youth 12 and under, get fields, you don't need as much maintenance. Games are a little quicker, all that stuff. I think it's an easier market to enter into if you've not been there in the younger ages. I just think, the older ones are all, for us, is always a lot of fun. Watch high school kids play, but, not so much. I had a grandson go through our program, the Pride of the Diamond, from 7 years old all the way up to now. And man, the younger, that was a blast watching them, and it was a blast. And as it's gotten a little more complicated, all of a sudden the needs and expectations become a little different. So just a
For sure.
suggestion from my
Yeah,
end.
no, I completely agree. And also in that market, I mean, they're not all doing all the experiential things that we do with the stats and all tournament team and the highlight videos and all that kind of stuff that we add, player profiles and everything there as well. So I think bringing all those things to that level, and nothing again, there's plenty of great tournament companies at the youth level. I'm just obviously very fond of Prospect Wire and the way they run things and all that kind of, so I think that, I'm looking to hopefully make a big impact in that side of things. And as you said, to me as well, like I mean, listen, we have 1,000 college games going on out there. I love going out there and watching some of those games, but I don't think there's anything that's more exciting than I love seeing good 10U, 11U, 12U baseball, like good players, watching those, and just the love of the game when they're out there. It is so much fun to watch. I mean, just the true, they're just passionate about playing baseball. And that's where I'm getting to that bigger field, 13 and 14U, is sometimes you don't see that same passion that you see in that younger age. And I wish, I hope we can, continue to, get that passion at that age and everything. But you definitely, I love the youth ages of those kids. And when I retire, I'm probably going to be coaching a 10U, 11U, 12U, because you just make such an impact on those kids at that age.
It's just the pure joy of them, running around.
Exactly.
And, hey, make sure we run it off the field. Yeah, they're sprinting on off the field. I mean, just the impact you do make on those kids stays with them, and that's what's kind of cool to see. I mean, I enjoy watching them play.
For sure.
I don't, the older kids and some of these major events, recruiting wise, that got to be a challenge, for sure, especially, for myself at times. But, I just think the youth kids is good way to enter that market in certain areas, and now it's established, and I mean, you kind of go from there. And then you would change youth sports that bugs you a little bit, just kind of briefly, as we already almost over already. Told me it goes fast.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the same thing I said earlier. I mean, I think we're so quick to try to get to that elite level, right? And that's our, trying to get beyond the local, all that kind of stuff. I mean, enjoy where you are, and don't forget, as parents, players, and that you're going to be playing with these kids, the same kids you started playing with in Little League. You're going to be playing with those same kids all through high school, through college, through, so just remember, treat everybody well, and it's a great sport. And some kids are going to develop at different ages. Just keep encouraging them, because we want these kids to be playing this great game of baseball. Mainly, in my opinion, it's a great game to compete and do all that kind of stuff, but the life lessons that you learn through baseball and through failure, and no other sport fails like baseball, right? Like you got to really learn how to
right?
Yes, exactly. And speaking of the being a great teammate means you're going to be a great employee as well. And that's the thing that, when I talked earlier about, being so quick to try to move on from your team or whatever, listen, there's events that you should be, doing that, and there's nothing wrong with that. But just remember that being a great teammate is first and foremost, and what you should be learning in this game.
Any quick advice for, a young guy who's in college to get a sport management degree? Hopefully he would go on and get a master's or whatever. And how does a college kid right now and has this vision of being involved in sport management? What advice would you give that young man or young lady at this point?
Yeah. So I came from both of my parents who are no longer with us, unfortunately, but both of my parents were engineers, and my dad always wanted me to be an engineer. And like he would try to teach me AutoCAD and all of that kind of stuff. And my mom always told me, find something you love, whatever you're going to, whatever you want to do, find something you love. Obviously I took her advice. Yeah, I do love what I do. There's always moments where there's hard work that goes into, the long hours. There's all of the things, right? But I do, overall absolutely love what I do. So, I mean, I think a lot of the people that are already in that sports management are looking for that track. So I think when you love something, you're going to work hard at it. You're going to do whatever it takes to get things done. And that's ultimately what we're looking for in hiring people. And a lot of times in hiring people in this sports world is through internships and through just, whether you're volunteering or whether you're, getting paid to work the gate or work the merchandise or be a scorekeeper or whatever it may be, do it to the best ability. And we're going to see that. And that's what we're looking for, right? Is, the old, mailroom guy, right? He's going to stand out if he just does it with just a little more, attention to detail and, treating everybody in the office great and having a great attitude and all of those things, I think are just so important that we're always looking to hire. And honestly, as a company, I mean, we, a lot of our, kind of executive staff or whatever, I mean, kind of getting towards those upper years, right? I mean, it's like we got to keep bringing in those younger guys and grooming those younger guys to take over this. I mean, it's funny. I had a conversation with my son last night, and it's like, "What do you want to do?" Obviously, he wants to play baseball. When in the major leagues, of course. I said, "What do you want to do if you don't do that?" He goes, "I want to be you." And that was pretty powerful, that was pretty cool is to see, I want to do what you're doing because I see it and I love it. And he comes out to RussMatt every single year. His birthday is March 16th. So it's right in the middle of RussMatt. So, unfortunately I can't really go anywhere during that time. So we have his birthday party out there every year. And, so that's kind of my goal is like, I would love to, obviously love to see him get involved in these, these companies that that we have here. But yeah, I think it is. And you have that same thing too, by the way. Every single one of your kids is a coach, I think. So.
They're doing well. And I just said to them when they were growing up, look, I don't care what you do with your life, find something you love. I think it's critical. If you want to be in the band or you want to do whatever you want to do, but you are going to play baseball. I told them I made them play. Yeah. So they're doing good. And I think, they didn't come out and say that, but they're, kind of following the footsteps.
Well, you got to talk to my youngest son. My youngest son's playing soccer now. So he's got a beautiful left-handed swing too. He's just my
guys when they were younger, they did too, but they grew out of that. I think that's how it goes.
Yeah.
Last quick thought I always like to ask the guests, and obviously the show's called Straight Lines, and there's a good story to all that from before, but a lot of it is paying attention to details. And you can go onto the fast food restaurant and ordering a milkshake, and they don't have the machine works, or I don't have cup holders, or to me those are signs of more systemic, deeper issues with a company. Just your overall thoughts of Straight Lines as we head out the door here.
When I think of Straight Lines, I think of staying focused on your core product, right? Is like you're staying focused on what is most important. We've talked about it over and over and during this conversation, and treating your customers and making sure you're providing a great experience to those to the customers, and again, coaches, parents, players, everybody who's involved, umpires, just the staff that run, make sure that they have a great experience, because ultimately they're the ones that are interacting with all of your customers as well. So, and this industry certainly, and there's a lot of, you get hit with a lot of things that are like, hey, should we do that? We have all these options to do a lot of different things. And, being able to say no to some of those things and, just say, hey, listen, I need to focus. This is going to kind of lose our focus towards what is most important for our company and
Clarity.
Clarity, exactly. And trying to, be clear to our staff of what our expectations are. And then also, just trying to lead everybody as like, hey, this is what we need to be most focused on. Unfortunately, I have some great people that sometimes I'm not perfect at that. I get excited about a lot of things. Obviously I kind of have this vision and a growth. I love, so there's a lot of things that, sometimes I, wanting to have this. And I talked to Brian Warner, the president of Prospect Wire, and he's like, no, that doesn't work for what we do, like in very, and you got to have people that are, within the organization that are honest with you of like, hey, this is where, we shouldn't waste our time thinking about this or going in this direction or whatever. So straight line, being focused on what is most important for your company. So
thanks for joining me on Straight Lines, where leadership lessons meet the game of baseball. Remember, leadership is about drawing straight lines, even when life throws us curveballs. If you enjoyed today's show, share it with a teammate, subscribe and connect with me on social media for more insights. And if you want to dive deeper, check out my books, Team Killers and What is Your Legacy? Until next time, lead with clarity, play with purpose, and keep your line straight. Rob, was great to have you on today. I had a blast, and you and I could spend hours and hours on any one of these little mini topics and go on from there. Maybe we will someday. But anyway,
I hope we do get some more time to sit and chat and hope to see you down here in Florida at some point as well. So
yeah, we'll make sure. Yeah, thank you, Rob. Thank you.
Absolutely.